I woke up. Sheets were stained with sweat. Breath was no longer bated, and unconscious solace began to surface. Depression kills. Not in a directly physical way. Not in a way perceivable by anyone, except for the sufferer. It makes me feel almost psychotic. It goes past the brain tissue, into the atoms of the molecules. I always imagine these electrons inside of me painstakingly orbiting a chunk of ice. There was never light inside of my imagination. I felt a subconscious sigh emit, and I tossed off the sheets. I stood up and let my head drop to my hands and contemplated once again my current situation. I contemplated the fact that I could no longer stay awake during the day. I contemplated the nothing I felt all the time about nothing. I've been contemplating suicide. Yet I'm too pathetically apathetic. I got up. I made my way to the kitchen. My night vision and preference for darkness have both increased proportionally. Light couldn't help me navigate the cramped quarters of my apartment any better than the dark. To the counter, loosen the lid, pop the pill. Instant release. Or was it a placebo? Irrelevant. I sat down on the couch in my living room. It was 9:04 p.m. Same time I woke up yesterday. I left the lights off. I always felt the darkness bore itself into my head, like an interloper, like a conqueror. It was unnatural. I can't remember when it swallowed the last fuck I had left to give. So this is how I've lived my days. I know it wasn't always this way, but the apathy dulls my memory. One day it seemed like my ribcage wasn't even protecting anything worthwhile. Like there weren't even any organs inside of me. I go out at night for groceries, for my alcohol, in the hope that maybe I'll just feel something. Anything. I find myself more and more entranced by nothing, though. I administer databases remotely for a data bank located downtown. I live in White City. I see a psychiatrist once a month to keep my prescription of Prozac abundant, but he doesn't do shit. I pay him so I can buy a drug that keeps the worst away. There's depression. But there's a place past that, a place I don't ever want to be again. It was like being conscious that you're insane, that you're sane while you're insane. There's no way to describe it, except that it haunted me, terrorized me like I've never experienced. I would kill myself before I got to that point again. I've been here for more than a couple years now. I dissevered myself from the loved ones I used to have, because I could no longer love. I cannot connect with anyone. Empathy evades me. I'm alone. And I can't care less. I feel cold. No happiness. No fear. No anger. No frustration. Ice and apathy. The weeks go by and I find myself in the living room, slouched upon the couch. It was 8:05 in the morning and I felt a spectral sort of fatigue. Contradictory, tired and not tired. The yield from an inversion of homeostasis. I sighed, preparing to let fall a deep, dreamless sleep. I depressed the power button on the remote, gaze transfixed on the TV screen reflecting the morning sun, watching my reflection be disemboweled by a jerky, gaunt figure, half the innards thrown, looking like they may come out of the TV from the other side, the other half wrapped around his neck so he could devour them while keeping his scarred arms free to keep emptying me out. I stared at myself, and myself rolled its lifeless eyes towards me, until the creature slowly moved its mouth down near the bridge of my nose, cocked his head instantly, and used his tongue to spear my eyes, one by one, down his throat. It began to turn its head towards the TV, but before I could behold this nightmare walker's face, the reflection changed. There was no reflection. I sat there. I wasn't able to move. Paralysis. Seconds passed. I screamed. As loud as I could, I used the lungs I knew were still in me, flying upwards, sprinting to a corner of the room, knocking a bookcase down so I could flatten myself against the wall. Eyes from corner to corner of the apartment that I used to know, heart beating loud enough to be used as a sonar. I hardly sweat. Hitting. Now. It's back. Finally, I feel. Finally. I felt sickened. I felt disgust. I felt confusion. I could finally fear. But yet, I couldn't bring myself out of this darkness. This lack of anything. This lack of reason to feel or care, aside from the ice terror that engripped me. I spent a few hours calming down. It seemed that the peaceful place my consciousness went to during sleep was now convoluted by a web of my internal organs. I turned every single light on in my house, washed 100 milligrams of antidepressant down with something both Russian and 120 proof, felt the fear and ethanol interact and puked it up, turned the TV towards the wall. I must have muttered a "what the fuck" about 100 times. What the fuck? What happened? I'm not sure I've ever hallucinated anything past the familiar hypogenic images and brooding sleep. What was it that murdered my reflection? Logic couldn't find its place. There were no variables able to induce something like that. I wasn't sure what to do. The only option I had was to talk to my psychiatrist in a couple weeks. I was feeling. I was fearing. It was different now. 2 weeks had passed. The TV stayed turned. The lights stayed on, even when I slept. I can't sleep like I used to. I dream now. The DMT released when I dreamt was flooding every synapse of my brain. I saw different things. One night, he licked my ribcage clean. Another, I used a spoon to cut his fingers off, sticking them through his neck while he just stood there. In one, we sat next to each other on the love seat and simply stared at ourselves in a mirror that covered the entire wall. I had no expression on my face. He had no face at all. Instead, scars in the form of an X over each eye and a gangrenous, grinning Chelsea grin connected to each side of his hairless, deformed head. The teeth were covered in a browning red, with jagged holes carved out of a few, and atrophying flesh in between most. His mutilated lips were sewn as far away from his mouth as possible, leaving his dry, puffy, bloody and purple and rotten decayed gums exposed. His skin, mostly a bleached, bright white, with massive keloids in some areas and burned flesh in others. He wore no shirt, revealing messy stitchwork covering his entire torso. He looked like the result of a drunk mortician and years of starvation. He was tall and thin, arms with reach, deep scars up the underside of each wrist, and perhaps just sinew in the stead of muscle. He was emaciated, no sign of ribs, or feet covered in caked blood, and legs, I don't even know. I can't form words. Legs! with sharp pockmarks in various places. He had no genitals, but not naked, as the skin he was in seemed more like a suit than a part of his body. I spent the first week distracted by paranoia. It eased when nothing happened. I made sure every light I owned was on, and I made sure that I had booze in me at all times. My psychiatric appointment had arrived. I told the doctor that I'd experienced hallucinations, and I felt intense fear. Dismissively, he told me it seemed like a result of the depression. I asked him about any side effects of the medication. Tonelessly, he said there was none relevant to my experience. I asked him which of course action I could take. Carelessly, he told me to remind myself that's all in my head. That's a matter of electrical flow into my brain and neurotransmitters in the axioms. He recommended that I videotape myself when I felt I had control of reality to prove to my future self that everything was okay. He wrote me off with another prescription of Prozac and scheduled an appointment for another month. I asked him if he could put me in 2 weeks earlier, but he said he was busy. Far too busy for me. Fucking prick. I got home. I turned the computer on. I found out what the internet had to say about Prozac. Severe symptoms included hallucinations. That fucking psychiatrist! I flushed the pills down the toilet and didn't even bother with the pharmacy. I turned on the webcam. Uneasily, I began talking to my future self. Hey, you're alright right now. There's no one here. There's no more Prozac to fuck with your head. I took a swig of some incendiary to warm me up. It seems like it was just a side effect of the antidepressant. You have control of reality. There are no hallucinations anymore. You're okay now. I ended the recording and sent a shortcut to the desktop. I had another nightmare that night. He removed me bit by bit with a scalpel that had been pushed into his index finger, and an ocean of blood rapidly pooling out of it. He had ripped the stitching on his torso off, drenching his body in a brown-tinged maroon. He was stuffing my organs inside of him. I was still alive. I felt the pain. I wasn't sure how much blood from his finger there was inside me before I woke up, nor was I sure how much of me he had extracted. When I woke up, the bedroom door was closed. I passed the day away typically. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be feeling something from being off that drug, but it's too early to discern a difference. I felt a twinge of frost, an arrowhead in the tip of my brain. Subliminal. I made another video. I told myself a few different things, and it lasted a few minutes. Again, this file went to the desktop. For assurance, I got up, stepping towards the kitchen, feeling a sort of slime touch the bottom of my foot. It didn't distract me, though. The alcohol did. I went to sleep. The next day, again, the bedroom door was closed. No, I hadn't closed it, though. I moved the computer desk in front of my room after I finished my night, and set the webcam to record exactly what happened. I went to bed at 7:06 a.m., and when I woke, the door was closed again. I rearranged the desk and slowly moved the slider, analyzing the video. He's been watching me sleep. A bleached hand with a scalpel for an index finger grabbed the edge of the door and closed it. He knew I was watching him. I drank. I wasn't sure what effect the medication had on me. Maybe it was too soon for the side effects to wear off. I've been taking the medication for a few years now, though, so... But why is it happening now? Either I've gone insane, or something else is happening. Something more real than a hallucination that my mind can synthesize. I'm not insane. I am not insane. I am not insane. I am not insane. I'm not insane. I'm not insane. I'm not insane. I'm not insane. I am not insane. I'm 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 not insane. I can't be sane. I go back over the video, again and again. He closes the door every time, at 2:11 in the afternoon. After however much time is spent, I go back to the couple videos I've made, searching for solace. I watch them, and he's in them. He's standing right behind me. Right fucking behind me! In both of them! He scratches my name into his pale chest and lets his brown red blood drip off. I look behind me and I see the stains in the carpet. I look at the bottom of my foot and there's a branch of sickly purple vessels spreading throughout. I watched the first video, telling myself no one's there. And I watch as these words cause his unsurgically cut smile to grow. I made the big mistake of going into the bathroom. I looked down to turn the faucet off, and then up, and he's right behind me, again! Scalpel plunged into my eardrum, twisting and turning. I turn around, and only a miasmic smell of putrescence. I smashed the mirror. I didn't want to see these illusions and lies anymore. I left the apartment and did the only thing I knew I could do, the only answers and solace I had. I went to the liquor store so I could purchase my bottle, and he's standing behind the cashier with his barbed tongue wrapped around the cashier's throat, drawing blood. Water falls down his shirt. When the cashier talks, it sounds like he's suffocating. He sounds anguished, yet he doesn't act like he notices it, but I sure as hell do. I go to the grocery store. I pass the butchery, and he's there with a blade, cutting up some sort of carcass, flies looking in to get their fill. His face stares at me, the scarred X's igniting the photoreceptor cells inside of my eyes. He doesn't notice the blade cutting through his fingers first, then hand, then wrist. I leave. I gotta get the fuck out of here! I rent a hotel for the night. I open the door and he's standing in the middle of the fucking room! The middle of the blood fucking drenched room that stinks like a slaughterhouse! I close the door. Back in my apartment now. I have no more peace. These few weeks, I haven't been alone like I have these past few years. There is nothing better than being alone, but he won't leave. He follows me. I sit in the corner of my living room, every light I have inundating my immediate surroundings. I've got 12 ounces left in a capsule of caffeine pills. I haven't seen him since the hotel, but that was hours ago. Where is he? Is he waiting in the bedroom? Is he hiding in the reflection of the broken mirror? Is he standing outside of my door? He's stolen my mind. He's invaded it. The way I used to bask in the darkness and let it envelop my imagination, I find that now I bask within his existence. He interlopes my mind, my imagination. I can hear how loudly his scarred smile laughs, how it chuckles at me in the darkness. I can smell the stink of his breath. I can feel him running his pale, lifeless fingers all over me. I can sense him in every way possible, but I can't see him. I can't fucking see him. He leaves that up to my imagination. He's here, but I don't know where. He's stolen my sanity, and I don't know where to find it. It's 12:01 a.m. There's a stench in my apartment, like blood fermented for consumption, like flesh rotted to an extra rare. There's a footstep in my bedroom, one in the kitchen, another right in front of me. The radius of the light is my domain. My domain. I can't pretend to be okay with this any longer. I can't break down and pretend that I'm sane and can speak even and clear. Light. My domain. Mine. This place is safe. I'm safe. He weaves through parts of the darkness. I think I can see him. Finally, I can see him where I am safe. Yes, but yet all I see is the darkness, wrapped and twisting in on itself. flows ethereally, consuming everything in it. I can't act any longer. I don't feel fear anymore. I don't feel safe. I feel empty. I feel the end. I take a very long drink. One final drink. And I turn the lights